Hello and welcome to How to Exit podcast. Today I'm here with Denise Logan, business advisor and author of The Seller's Journey. It's okay to speak today. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate having you here, and I think we're going to have a blast. You've got some really interesting and valuable information that you've gathered over the years and wrote about. So I'm interested in that.
Thanks for having me. Nice to
Awesome.
join you.
It's very common for me to do on the show is kind of your journey. How did you get here? Now you've got a very interesting path. So, but I'll let you tell it your way. I joke around all the time and say you were born, now you're on my show. Could you fill in the gap in between? But let's just kind of take a look at, who you are and how you ended up being a business advisor because your journey's been a lot different than most.
And I love that you're using the word journey since that's in the title of my book, The Seller's Journey. I'm like, yay, bring it.
There we go.
In my early life, I was a mental health professional, and then I was a lawyer. And some of your listeners might be thinking, for heaven's sake, why didn't she stop herself from becoming a lawyer if she was a mental health professional? And I built a law firm in Washington, D.C. When we got a pretty good size, I realized I would rather put a stick in my eye than go to work one more day. And I did a super ugly, choppy exit from my own business, got rid of my house and bought a motorhome. And that might be a separate conversation we have over a beverage at some point.
Yeah.
So, what I thought would be 6 months where I would travel and kind of reclaim myself turned into several years where I traveled all over North and Central America in a 38-foot motorhome with two little dogs. And when I came off the road, I joined a friend's business who was preparing it for sale. Over the next 10 years, we took that business to the market 3 times, and he was unable to let go. And I thought, isn't this interesting? You could be me and wait too long and be ready to give my business away. Or you could be him and go too early and not be able to let go. So I left and did a research study to try to figure out, why do business owners get stuck and how could we help them be able to let go more simply? And then I wrote a book about it and have been out on the speaker circuit. I speak at 70 or so conferences a year about the psychology of owners and how to make it easier when the time comes to let go. Why owners identify so strongly with their business. There's some psychology behind why that is and how we can lessen it. If you think about it, everywhere we go, we are asked this question: what do you do? Whether it makes any sense or not. And I believe that that is actually a social pegging question, because depending on how you answer that question, the other person's response will be different. So I think that question is really, should I be kissing up to you right now? Or should you be kissing up to me? And if a listener is saying, oh, that's not true, that's not why I ask it, try answering with a different answer. So let's say, and from my background, right, as a lawyer, there was a certain amount of cachet. Or now, as an author, there's a certain amount of cachet. If instead I said I was a janitor or I was a housekeeper, do we actually think that the other person's response would be with the same level of interest as if I give a different profession? Think about it. Aren't there about 200,000 other questions we could ask about that person that would help us relate? And the reason I think this is such an important topic for a business owner is when the time comes that your answer is unclear, there can feel great shame around that. Our identity, when we tie our identity to what we do. And I think one of the things that we often see with owners is they sell their business, they receive a sack full of cash,
Mhm.
and then all of that turmoil comes up. And if they are not either prepared to go through the turmoil or have someone to guide them through it, they will quickly throw themselves into another business. They will buy another business without evaluating whether or not that is the business for them or whether that is even a worthwhile business for them to acquire. And that is moving away from the cognitive dissonance of, who am I without my business?
How do you detect that that's coming up? How do we see that that's going to be an issue early on in the process?
Yeah. So, one of the things is we have more conversations with owners. Sometimes I watch advisors or brokers or even buyers who will ask what I call a dopey question. So, what are you going to do when you retire? Oh, okay, you're going to golf and travel. Check. That's not an answer. And the more compelling the future is that that person is stepping forward to, the more likely they are to be able to complete. So here's a question that I ask: what does work provide for you other than money and financial security? I'll give you another example. I was speaking at a conference and I had a fellow from the audience say, I don't understand why this deal fell apart for me. And it was a family run business, multiple generations in the family. And he was dealing with the son in the business. And when he first started, he was like, oh, yeah, don't worry, my dad's on board with this. And then come to find out close to the end, no, the dad was not on board with this. And so what I said is, how is it possible that you didn't have a conversation with the dad in this situation? And he was like, well, the son said, he was on board. If the son said our books are good, would you not have done a financial audit? No, in no possible way. And what I think is that this is a place for buyers and advisors to notice where their own skill set isn't as strong and either get some training on that or bring in another resource who can help ferret those things out. There was a private equity firm that was interested in buying a family run business, and the husband was ready to sell, the wife was not. And they invited me in to have a conversation to sort out what might be happening. And so the wife said, well, this business is going to go to our son. You could tell a little bit of the facial expression from the father. He was not too interested in that. And I was like, oh, how long has he been in the business? Oh, he's a sophomore in college. I was like, oh, is he interested in acquiring the business? Well, no one had had that conversation. So I had a conversation with the son, and he said, I do not want to go in that business. I hate that business. That's like the favored child in this family. I will get 3 PhDs if I have to stay in school until they sell that business. Well, wouldn't it be nicer to have that conversation? So I facilitated a family conversation where it became safe for him to communicate that. Then I did grief work with the mom because for her, this was a huge letting go of a dream that she had.